everyone. Good evening. I'm Sanjana with Room to Read. We are so thrilled and honored to have been chosen as a community beneficiary for ETHDenver this year. Seeing the excitement on the faces of those kids and hearing about all the interesting and fun, creative ways the conference is supporting Room to Read is so appreciated by our teams around the world. So wanted to give a big thanks to John and for the conference organizers for allowing Room to Read to be here to share a little bit more about our story. So for those of you who don't know, Room to Read's mission is simple. We want to end illiteracy and gender inequality in education. And we're celebrating our 20th anniversary this year, which is really exciting. And thank you. And in the last 20 years, we've impacted more than 18 million children across 16 countries, spanning Asia, Africa, Latin America, and the Middle East. And what ties children in those distant parts of the world is no different from us. Whether you grew up in, near the Rocky Mountains in Colorado or near the Himalayas in Nepal, where Room to Read first started, our life path is impacted by the education that we receive. Even the most basic education is what allows for the foundation for all future learning. If we think about it, the skills and talent that's on showcase this weekend would not have been possible without basic literacy skills. I was chatting with John earlier this week, and I think he summed it up best. He said, literacy is your economic engine. Without it, how can you function in the information age? And so I think that really sums it up. But the challenge is there are still 700 million people around the world who are illiterate, 2/3 of which are women. That's where Room to Read comes in. We are working to make sure that all children around the world can learn to read and write. And our groundbreaking program is like no other. We go in and establish libraries, coach teachers. We publish and distribute local language, culturally relevant children's books so that kids are able to see things that they can relate to and they can build the culture of reading. What's very exciting is we're now on the path to help spread our knowledge through the power of education and the power of technology. So we have launched what we're calling Literacy Cloud, an open source platform for us to be able to share all of our local language children's books and the content around professional development and teacher training with schools and teachers around the world so that in an instant, a child in a remote village in Indonesia is able to instantly read a book that they can relate to and their imaginations can run wild. We also have a program specifically around girls' education. And that's because we know that when girls reach secondary school level, they are much more highly likely to drop out due to cultural norms or other challenges within their community. So we provide a holistic program for these girls. We go in, we support them in secondary school, we work with their families, we work with their communities, and we pair them with a mentor who we call a social mobilizer, who works with them on an ongoing basis and teaches them key life skills, from self-confidence to communication skills, all the way through to financial literacy. So the girls are graduating secondary school with the skills they need to negotiate their key life decisions. And it's so amazing to see over 80% of the girls in our program graduate to go on to pursue tertiary education or employment within 1 year of graduating. And that's virtually unheard of in the countries where we work. And I'd like to end my slot today by sharing a story of a girl in our girls' education program. I'd like to introduce you to Shabnam. Shabnam grew up in a rural village in Rajasthan, India, a village in which girls simply did not go to school. They were expected to do household chores and work in the farmlands and care for elderly family members, but they were not to go to school. And that's when Room to Read came in. We worked with the community leaders, worked with the families and communities to let them understand the importance of educating girls. And eventually, we were able to enroll the first class of girls into school, which included Shabnam. Thank you. Unfortunately, it was not all smooth sailing from there. The cultural challenges still persisted. Relatives and neighbors were still challenging and often questioning her family because, according to them, Shabnam attending school with boys was against their religious beliefs. But that was a challenge that we have seen often. What was especially worrisome was that she was also not getting support from her father and her brothers. But eventually, Room to Read and her mother had her back, and we were able to work really closely with the community, work really closely with the family to understand why it's important that both boys and girls get educated. So Shabnam worked really hard, and I am pleased to share that she's currently in university. She's studying electronics, and she wants to become an engineer. So it's very exciting, and she is an inspiration to girls throughout her village. And what's very touching is a recent quote from her father, which I'm sharing with you now. "I'm delighted my daughter will soon become an engineer. I'm an illiterate person who is a nobody in this village. A huge transformation has taken place in our village. Inspired by my daughter, hundreds of girls are going to school." So with that, I'd just like to thank you all again for allowing me to be up here and share a little bit about Room to Read. Thank you for supporting Room to Read through the ETHDenver conference, and you really are changing the next generation of future leaders. So thank you so much.